Well, I've got with me David Ashford, the Minister for Health and Social Care. We're recording this on Wednesday. It's a very fluid thing. Everything is moving fast. But you've just come out with moving things on to the new way that the Isle of Man is going to do its health. You've announced a man in charge today.
Yes, we have indeed. Andrew Foster, who I'm delighted has taken up the position as Chairman of Manx Care. Andrew, if anyone looks at his background, will see that he's got a wide range of experience across the health sector, and I'm delighted that someone of that calibre has taken up the position.
And what does this mean to people when things move over to this new system?
So what it means is that we will now have a purely focused delivery model. So at the moment, we've got a very old-fashioned system where the department is responsible for absolutely everything. So the department doesn't just set the policy, they're also responsible for the delivery on the ground. We will have Manx Care that purely focuses on the delivery and how that delivery is done. The department will focus on policy and setting mandates for Manx Care as to what services should be delivered and to what extent.
Well, how does that affect you? Are you still overseeing everything?
Yes, so as Minister, nothing changes in that regard. I'm still politically responsible. It's not a get out of jail. Well, obviously, and the budget rests with with Department of Health and Social Care as well, who then transfer the appropriate budget down to Manx Care. So it's not a get out of jail free card for the Minister for Health and Social Care to say that's Manx Care's problem. Ultimately, the Minister is still responsible for all the services.
So it just puts a little bit of distance between you, is it?
It does.
Why do this?
Well, I think it's important because I think sometimes it's very easy to get bogged down in the delivery. We've spoken about this, in fact, when I was a backbencher, if I remember rightly.
That far back?
Wow. I know it seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? About firefighting. And it also came up in my first ever interview I did with you as Minister for Health as well.
You remember everything.
That a lot of the problem is it's very easy in health and social care to end up firefighting rather than focusing on the big strategic issues. And that's what this will allow us to do. The Manx Care focuses purely on the delivery, and the department then can is left to focus on the big strategic issues and the direction of travel for the future of healthcare on the island.
I don't go too much on this one subject, but there must be a cost involved in getting this all up and running, and more people involved, isn't there? There's more civil servants or whatever. It's going to take a cost.
Well, there's actually cost on the front line as well, because we have to reassess our services and to see if what we're delivering is practical. I think one of the failings in the past is we haven't effectively base budgeted in health and social care. So each year we've come forward with what we've had before, then a couple of business cases to Treasury, and said actually, a bit of an uplift. And this will do. What we're doing this year is radically different. Via the transformation team, we are actually base budgeting the department. So we are looking at what health and social care actually physically costs to deliver. So the budget that will go forward next year to Treasury is actually based on the real cost of delivery.
Oh, so there'll be no overspend then? You won't be going to have to go back for more money?
Well, that is the plan, because
it's always the plan, isn't it?
It's always the plan, of course. But this year, as I don't want to curse it, but like I say, things are looking pretty steady at the moment. Right. But there's plenty of time for that yet. Should
people have their flu jab? Do you recommend that, by the way?
For those certainly in the vulnerable category, I would recommend that they do. The flu jab, should be for people who want to have it available for them to have. So
it's not a COVID jab, is it? We're still miles away from that.
No, we're still miles away from that. And as probably people will have seen on the news this morning, the Oxford trials have been temporarily suspended due to one patient becoming unwell.
You would put some money on that one, hadn't you, in the sense of we were going to get some of the jabs if it proves successful?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing of concern at the moment. This happens a lot with trials, where if someone gets admitted to hospital, it might be something completely unrelated to the vaccine that they're trialling, but they, as a precaution, halt it until they know why that person's become unwell.
I would want those tests done, I must admit. I'd worry if I was rushed to having something that I wasn't sure what was going into me.
And it is important that the stages still go through. Normally with a vaccination, of course, it could take up to a decade normally to develop, so they are doing it in super quick time. But it is important that they actually do still go through the regulatory stages. And in fact, the company that's producing the Oxford vaccine is actually one of those, with many other companies around the world, that has signed what's termed the health pledge around vaccination, which says that they won't just rush something out for the sake of having it out. They will still go through the various tests and safety stages.
Otherwise, down the line, there could be all sorts of ramifications and legal issues, and
precisely, where we only have to go back to the 60s and 70s to look at drugs that came onto the market that hadn't necessarily been fully tested, and then the long-term effects from those.
Well, on Sunday, the record went back to zero on days without any incidents on the Isle of Man, didn't it, as such? You announced it on Sunday, but Saturday I think it happened. We're back at that situation now. There's one case here, but isolation's going on. We always knew it was going to happen, but did you entered the full ministerial mode, the press conference, that sort of thing. Where are we up to on this one? You relaxed that is all done and dusted, it is no more of an issue?
Yeah, nothing has come from it. The individual has been isolating since they got back. They'd had travel further afield and through the UK as well. They came up positive on the test. They've been in isolation. Contact tracing's been undertaken. There's no high-risk contacts being identified, and the individual lives alone and has been following the rules. And again, I just need to emphasise this is exactly why we have these isolation rules in place and why it is so important that people actually follow this.
Well, the day of recording is well, I think it was last night actually. They've announced the UK 6 people in a gathering. I mean, in England anyway. This is not going the right way at the moment at all.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag in the UK. I mean, certainly it is concerning in some ways because whichever measure you use now, even if you do it as a percentage of tests, the UK is starting to rise. They are taking, obviously, swift action, as you mentioned, the announcements that were made last night. But obviously the Isle of Man is in a very different position. And if we can, we want to try and keep that position for as long as possible.
They're now looking at islands one by one, which is, I suppose, technically, if others islands for us could come on like Jersey or things, you would be still hoping that we could open up a bit more at some point?
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
sooner rather than later.
Let's be perfectly honest, we can't stay shut down forever, and there's a full recognition of that. But I think what's important is we do it in a staged approach. Everything we've done throughout this pandemic has been done by stages, and the border framework document is no different. Now, I know it's exceptionally frustrating for a lot of people who can't see loved ones, can't see family, and, it's a real strain for a lot of people, but it is important for the overall island community that we do continue to follow those stages, because the worst case scenario would be we end up back in the phase we were in March and April, where just like the UK we're having to do shutting things down, and all the damage that will cause long term, not just to the economy but also to people's personal mental health if they are then restricted even on what they can do going out of the house.
If things do get out of hand again, we get some cases in the community, whatever, I'm going to go with masks again. It's almost reluctant because we've talked about it so many times. But is that now something that you would consider if we have to go to that level of precautions?
Yeah, it would be something we would consider. The science has moved on a bit from masks since we were originally talking about it, which was around April, which seems like a lifetime ago now.
Yeah, well, we're still in person doing it then.
And but in relation, and you had a wide variety of them. I remember very well.
Very special mask one day to wear. But
if anyone ever needs asbestos removing, they know where to go, Paul.
But that's where we were at that stage. No one knew what to do.
But with masks, the science has moved on a bit more now. So there is, although it's still very low level protection, it doesn't protect the wearer but it potentially protects other people from the wearer. So we would probably consider, if we ended up in those stages now, recommending. I doubt we would mandate. I need to be clear on that. I don't think we'd be at the stage of mandating, because as the UK and other countries have found further afield, it's very hard to mandate. But we would probably very strongly urge, which is the phrase Jersey uses, people using masks in those circumstances.
Do you feel confident that an opening up is going to happen before the end of this year, or is that just too crystal ball gazing for this?
My crystal ball seems to be broken these days, I must say. I don't put timescales around things. I think one of the issues is, and certainly I have to be responsible as Minister for Health, I don't want to get people's hopes up falsely, particularly when there is people who are desperate to see loved ones. So I don't put arbitrary timescales around the stages, because I think that's unfair to people who are in the position of wanting to see loved ones.
People got things on their timetables. I mean, I think Gaiety's showing some shows might be coming up. There's a Panto at Christmas, which is a UK production, I think, isn't it? And those sort of things. And EasyJet even showing some flights to Manchester in October for whatever reason. But people just can't plan, right? I mean, this is frustrating. It
is, and that's the problem with the virus, and it's the problem with the pandemic, because it's not a one-way street. It's not a case of you hit a peak and then you suddenly come down and that's all that one way. Things can change very rapidly with a virus and a pandemic, where it goes the other way again, and that means measures. So it is frustrating, but with a pandemic you can't lay out a linear scale that actually says this is a one-way street and this is the direction of travel.
Of course, we've had these, I think it's 4 different people that decided they weren't going to keep to their isolation, and took the consequences, and that's the ones that came to, the knowledge of the police. Are you worried that we have now got to the stage we're so relaxed about this and people aren't doing what they need to do, or are we using the thing of nosy neighbours looking out the window and checking?
No, I think the vast majority, 98-99% of the Manx public have been vastly responsible throughout this. There is a cohort who obviously decided the rules didn't apply to them, but that's the same in any walk of life. With any rules and regulations, there's always people who feel that doesn't apply to them, and they've suffered the consequences. And I think that sends out a very powerful message that we do take this seriously. But also, we have identified a case, as you said, and we spoke about at the start. It's a case who has followed the rules and thereby has protected the Ireland community, and I think that should send out a powerful message as well, that this isn't over yet.
I think we're getting quite used to being in this bubble though, aren't we? I mean, I was having coffee this morning and it came up a conversation like, wow, we are in this bizarre situation, we take this for granted now. And in the UK they're being more, well, England anyway, restrained again, and you can't fly back from this airport or that country, and that's the thing. Again, it's just that thing that, will it end, do you think, in that sense? Is that an unfair question? Do you think we'll ever have to pull things back completely, or is that just a stupid question?
Well, it depends upon the way it goes, Paul.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that. If we started seeing high-level community transmission, we've got our Stay Safe document, which is published online and publicly available. And I think it's page 26 that lays out our measures around red, amber, green, and even black in terms of the number of cases and how we would unwind things depending upon what happened. That's there for public consumption, and that's the plan that's still in force and we would follow. But we are exceptionally lucky on the island because of the hard work of the Manx public at where we are. But hopefully the announcement that me and the Chief Minister had to make on Sunday morning to the public will make clear that this is still a risk and we do still need to be vigilant.